welcome to the exam tips video for paper P5, Advanced Performance Management, relevant to the December 2016 examination. Now that you're a few days away from the exam, let's just quickly talk about some good exam technique and some key topics relevant to the upcoming exam. Going into the exam, it is important to remember that the skills tested on P5 are at a much higher level than the skills tested on the fundamental level and the professional essential level. And hence, it becomes pertinent, becomes very, very important for you to use the question information very effectively in your answers. So it is critical that we avoid writing huge chunks of knowledge into your answers and instead replace that with scenario relevant ideas and thoughts. Now, with that in mind, let's quickly talk about a few topics that would be of core relevance to the upcoming exam. First and foremost, evaluation of strategic performance reports that may be given to you in the exam has been tested very frequently in the past and may continue to be tested in the future, including in December 2016. This is a question where you will be given a report that is presently being submitted to the board or being used by the board and asked to comment on its presentation, on its content, on its relevance. A large part of this is down to identifying whether you are measuring what is important for the company. There will be objectives given in the question and you must check if those objectives are being measured as a part of the report. Alongside that, you can make comments on how useful, how presentable, how user-friendly the report is and make any suggestions or comments. Besides this, you may also be asked to evaluate certain key performance indicators provided in the question. This is typically a scenario where they give you a list of KPIs and ask you to comment on whether these KPIs are useful or not. The comments need to be focused on whether these KPIs are measuring what is important for the company and whether they are relevant to the objectives of the organization. It is very easy to synthesize academic models like PEST or SWOT into the evaluation of KPIs, wherein you could be given a list of KPIs, you could be given a SWOT or a PEST analysis and asked to comment on whether these KPIs are relevant to the organization in the context of the SWOT or the PEST. So for example, if you have identified a weakness in SWOT which is not measured in your KPIs, that may be a point worth pointing out. Besides evaluation of reports and KPIs, evaluation of reward systems, how people are rewarded, whether the targets are fair, whether the reward mechanism is appropriately designed, and so on, could be another potential part of a bigger question. You could be given information on how people are rewarded and asked to comment on what changes you would like to see and how the current reward system may be good or bad, may be motivating or demotivating, and helping the company achieve its objective. Further, other assessment models such as the balanced scorecard, the building block model, and the performance pyramid have been examined regularly in P5, and it is likely that this trend may continue. You should make sure you are aware of these models and how you apply these models. There are plenty of questions available from the past exams. If at all you are able to do at least one question on all of these models, you will find yourself in a fairly good position to apply these models to try and evaluate performance measurement systems within companies. Typically, the focus of these questions tend to be on applying these models to the way the company is measuring performance, that is the KPIs, and trying to see where there are deficiencies and problems and what needs to be changed. Further, besides these models, you must also be aware of the computation process for EVA, economic value added. Value-based management is definitely a core area on P5, and you could potentially be asked to do a small little calculation on EVA for a few marks. Besides CPA, the other calculation element that may figure up in your exam is more likely to be on the lines of calculation of a few key performance indicators. So you could be given a lot of data and asked to calculate 4 or 5 KPIs, such as the gross profit margin or the ROCE, or maybe break-even point, something on these lines. Typically, this is not expected to be more than 7 or 8 marks. This will tend to be a smaller part of a large question. Please also make sure you go through the corporate failure models, both quantitative and qualitative, meaning the Z-score and the Argentines model. Please make sure you're aware of how you apply these models. There are past exam questions available which will help you practice and hone your skills on both these models. Finally, please be aware of the theory, the knowledge behind a lot of the so-called contemporary issues, such as Kaizen costing and JIT and target costing, TQM, and so on. You should be aware of the knowledge. A large part of the marks in questions on these areas tend to be available for knowledge. Unlike the other areas on P5, on these areas you do get quite a few marks for the general explanation of the topic, after which most definitely you should apply the model to the context of the question and answer the very specific requirement. So in conclusion, I wish you all the very best for your upcoming exam. Please do make sure you pay closest attention to reading the question very, very carefully and ensuring that you address the very specific requirement of the question, because this is where often people tend to make a mistake and go astray, which therefore means you should plan your answer, make sure you do an allocation of marks before you start so that you know exactly how much to write and you have a plan of action before you start. Once again, wish you all the very best. I hope your exam goes really, really well. Thank you.